I have to imagine that your mom played a big influence in at least one of those. So
I
talk to
have
me
one,
about
what 100%. Women on par are paid way less than men, and Latina women and Black women. I think Black women are at 70 cents per dollar, and Latina women are at like 65 cents per dollar. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard. And like I said, I see my mother everywhere. So in the city of Reading, where over 35% of the households are headed by women, we're talking about a huge population that are severely underpaid, right? And for example, if we were just to pay women equally to men, think of all the things that they'd be able to afford: childcare, food on the table, college costs, rents. There are just so many things that women and women of color specifically could be able to afford if they were just paid equally to men. And quite frankly, in the year of 2021, it's really a damn shame that we're continuing to have this conversation. It's a shame. And then in terms of the minimum wage in general, right? The minimum wage in the state of Pennsylvania is $7.25. The last time we raised the minimum wage was, I think, about 15 years ago, when the federal government made us raise the minimum wage, when the federal government increased the minimum wage. But before that, the state of Pennsylvania hadn't raised the minimum wage for at least 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. So here we are, on social media in 2020, there was that like 10-year challenge. I don't know if you remember seeing that 10-year challenge, right? Well, damn, 10-year challenge. Here we go. 10 years ago, the minimum wage was $7.25 an hour. And 10 years later, it's the same damn thing. And yet nowhere in my district and nowhere across the Commonwealth can you afford to even pay for a 2-bedroom apartment on a $7.25 an hour salary. And so that needs to change. And I say, Nigel, that I'm a pragmatic progressive. Mm-hmm. In an ideal world, if the Democrats, if we held the majority in Harrisburg, man, that minimum wage needs to be $15 an hour. And let's tie it to inflation. Just like I get a cost of living increase every year, the people of the Commonwealth deserve that as well. We tie it to inflation, we never have that conversation again. In a perfect world with Democrats in the majority. But we don't live in that perfect world. Right. I live in a world where Democrats were further in the minority now than we were 2 years ago. And in the Senate, in the Pennsylvania Senate, the Republicans have a supermajority. So the truth of the matter is that $15 would be a great goal, but man, I'd be for $12 an hour right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that there are Republicans in Harrisburg who are willing to go to $12 an hour right now. And quite frankly, for the thousands of people in my district, the millions of people in Philadelphia, and the millions more across the Commonwealth, an increase to just $12 an hour would be a huge economic stimulus, for folks. And, folks elected us to come up with pragmatic solutions to our most persistent and challenging problems. And I think that that's a pragmatic way for us to have an immediate impact on folks directly right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about sort of your plans for ending mass incarceration, because I know Pennsylvania is big with private prisons, and I know a lot out in, at least in rural counties, that's like the main job source out in those rural counties. So talk to me about how that ends, because I mean, in Philadelphia, we have a district attorney that has been doing that he's been fighting that mission for the past 4 years, but he's going to face a tough challenge in this coming year. But that's beside the point. So tell me about how Pennsylvania can fix that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we can do is, like, I'm working on a bill right now that it's going to eliminate cash bail for misdemeanor and lower offenses, right? And cash bail, and for folks that don't know about Reading and Berks County, we were actually one of the leaders in the Commonwealth for sending folks to jail because they're too poor to be able to bail themselves out of jail. And so, I'm writing some legislation now to eliminate cash bail for, again, misdemeanor and lower type offenses. But that's just one way, right? We got to talk about ending privatizations of jails. We got to talk about, decriminalizing small amounts of marijuana. and potentially legalizing it and maybe taxing it and selling it. But that's another topic for another issue. But you know, there are things that we can do. There are things that I can do right now to help folks in Philly, in Reading, in Lancaster, and I think cash bail is at the top of that list. Is getting rid of that. I know Larry Krasner has all but kind of eliminated cash bail for except for the most heinous crimes, right? We need to replicate that across the Commonwealth, and more importantly, we should codify it to make that the law of the land. A second thing, though, one of the big things that I'm really worried about, especially now, and with the COVID lens on, is the eviction crisis that we're going to be facing, right? Again, I come back to my district, Reading and Berks County, but we were one of the leaders in the Commonwealth of evicting folks out of their homes here in the city of Reading, here in Berks County. So now with COVID, you know, I'm looking at thousands of my residents, thousands of people in my city who are potentially looking at getting kicked out of their homes during the worst global health crisis since the Spanish flu back in 1918, right? So that's going to be a huge deal, and I need to work with our law enforcement and our MDJs. I'm talking to our MDJs regularly about what can we do, what resources can I help provide to their offices to help the people that are coming in front of them. But it's a shame because right now evictions are starting back up here in the city of Reading. They're happening right now. And I'm really worried about that. And on the flip side, I'll say that we also need to look out for the homeowners and the property owners who are middle-class folks who haven't done anything wrong. At the end of the day, COVID have given poor and middle-class folks the short end of the stick. And post-COVID, my focus as a legislator is to ensure that the needs of the most marginalized among us are at the forefront of our post-COVID efforts. And that's going to be big in the days and months to come.